What is up, guys? Welcome to this edition of Against All Odds. We are revisiting another save this week. This came from Sash Perennial, I think in like November. That was several months ago. You may or may not remember this, so
at least you have cavalry. I mean, should I be grateful that there are cavalry units in this army? The bare minimum, expecting the bare minimum from my army composition. Terrible army composition.
Expect the Yari Ashigaru from the second stack to come peel off and go for my melee units outside of the fort, and this is going to be really annoying because they're going to delay me from converging on the fort and trying to relieve the pressure on that side. Another unit of Yari Ashigaru that's going after my cavalry. I absolutely hate this. I'm trying to go for Shingen. There is no way that I can win this without getting Shingen. Yes, it's this one again. There have been quite a number of seemingly impossible challenges I've faced in Shogun 2, but while I had eventually surmounted others, victory continues to elude me in this one here. More than a year ago, Sash Perennial graciously handed me this save file. What are we up against? A Hojo army composed of Katana Samurai, Samurai Archers, and Yari Ashigaru, while lacking a general and any sort of cavalry. Against our highly experienced force of Yari Ashigaru, a powerful cavalry arm, skilled archers, all led by a multi-rank daimyo with stand and fight. With the Hojo army starting out dispersed, and with our superior mobility, the fight seems easy enough. The army-sized wrench in all of this is the reinforcing Takeda army, who do have a veteran general, Shingen himself, leading a force of highly experienced Bo Samurai and Yari Ashigaru. That they don't have Katana or Yari Samurai is little consolation. The morale from experience and their general will make the Takeda units nigh impossible to rout. It also doesn't help that we have a tiny fort that offers us very little in the way of maneuverability or protection from archers. In fact, the fort is a major liability here because no matter how well we fight outside, the enemy need only capture the flag to win, and they can quite easily capture the gates, locking our external forces from the fort. After hours upon hours, dozens of attempts, and multiple near successes, let's see the best I could come up with. And as always, you can hop onto Discord and share your save files for me to try out. So, here we are in the, what is it? The greatest challenge of my Total War career. On one of the worst siege maps you can get because the water just destroys mobility. And in this, and it goes both ways, but in this scenario where we have to rely so much on cavalry to do everything, it kind of just kills our momentum so much. It just complicates the whole mobility aspect of the fight. So the placement of all the units over here is going to be very deliberate. I'm going to have Bo Samurai, 2 archers facing the direction of the Takeda army, 1 to cover the southern side for the approaching Hojo, approaching elements of the Hojo stack. I have 1 unit of Bo Ashigaru in loose formation behind the walls because enemy archers like to prefer targeting units that are behind the walls and not on the wall itself. It's an interesting quirk in the AI I found, and it's I've used it to good effect. 1 unit of Yari Ashigaru towards the northern side of the map in the northern river. These 4 Yari Ashigaru facing the west, guarding the flank against a contingent of the Hojo army with Yari Samurai and Katana Samurai. All in the Yari wall in a really good position. Going to be supported by archer fire and eventually stand and fight. But first, before that, the very first move in this fight is to eliminate the Bo Samurai that will spawn off to the north of the map, because I cannot afford to have archers surrounding the fort. I need to have... I can work with having archers on one side of the fort because I can use the Tenshu to block their fire. I can hide units behind the Tenshu or behind the gatehouse to block fire, but obviously that doesn't work if the fort is surrounded. I had nowhere to run. So very first order of battle is to get rid of the Bo Samurai, and it's going to be relatively simple because they don't have a general, so they will rout relatively quickly. I'm gonna have 2 waves of charges, the first being the Yari cavalry followed by the generals, and then the light cavalry. I'm using the light cavalry as the flanking force because I need to protect them from archer fire as they have worse armor. Popping rally, I think, over here. Yep, I popped rally over there. And income, yeah, they're already wavering. Yep, these units are already wavering over here. Already wavering. Hojo Bow Samurai never stood a chance, and that entire section is completely wiped out. Only issue is I took a bit of a beating on that Yari cavalry, and here's the reason I put this Yari Ashigaru here. It's because I knew the Takeda cavalry were gonna show up, and I needed to intercept them. I already gave an order to my daimyo to go back to the fort and pop stand and fight there. His work is done over here. Both of the cavalry units have been caught, and I need to move really quickly now. This is going to be really satisfying over here because this Yari Ashigaru and the cavalry, it's like the arms of a clock. The cavalry are like the arms of a clock, and the Yari Ashigaru is just pinning everything down, swinging around to wherever I need to pin down a unit. So I need to... Time is of the essence over here. I need to get rid of these cavalry units real quick. And I need to get rid of them now because if I leave them alive, they're going to complicate things later in the fight. I know that this is my latest attempt, and after maybe 40 attempts, I know exactly which units need to be taken out now. So the Takeda cavalry have been defeated. The only cavalry they have left are generals, and my archers are beginning to fire over there in the fort. They're already exchanging fire. I'm swinging my Yari wall around now to fight the Hojo Yari Ashigaru over my rear. So the entire northern side of the fort is protected. Nothing is coming down that area, and that's the only area I don't have any archers, so it frees up my archers to pick up on other targets. And the thing is, this Yari Ashigaru, wayward Yari Ashigaru, is annoying me, and I decided, you know what? I am going to take on this Yari Ashigaru with nothing but cavalry, and I will rout it. I will rout it. You know, I will... this is the beauty of this game, when cavalry are supposedly hard countered by Yari, but you can just utilize your mobility well enough and positioning to inflict massive morale shocks on them. So I wiped out an entire unit of Yari Ashigaru with nothing but cavalry, and that entire contingent, like lightning, was just wiped out. And now I realize that the enemy generals behave really inconsistent in this fight. Sometimes they run up to the fort right at the beginning of the fight. Other times they just sit back. In this case, they sit back, so I'm acting accordingly. I delayed a bit here in the stand-and fight, which is unfortunate, but it's not too bad of a delay. And my Yari Ashigaru are fighting in an extremely good spot. I got the samurai retainers who are gonna bolster their strength. And my bows are doing pretty well overall. You can see that the bow Ashigaru in loose formation is drawing all the fire, most of the fire from the enemy. So my bow samurai aren't taking any return fire. And there are already a few Hojo bow samurai who have been whittled down there. My cavalry going in an extremely wide flank to go and hit the generals. You may be wondering why I poured that much cavalry to fight the generals. It's because, again, I've had enough attempts in this fight to know that the enemy generals have so much experience and so many hit points because of that experience that I cannot afford having him survive and rout. I need to make sure that Shingen is dead. Like I cannot afford him. If he routs and survives, I don't get any morale penalty on the enemy units. They will still break instead of shattering. I can't afford that, so I need to pile in as many units over here. There's also another advantage in that I pulled away some... You can see some Yari Ashigaru there in the background. I managed to pull them away from the rest of the fight, so that's another minor advantage to doing this. This Yari Ashigaru is pretty much doomed, but hey, what can I do? The fight on the western side of the fort is looking pretty favorable. We got that one unit of firebomb throwers messing up one of my formations. But despite the men all flying around and everything, their kill rates aren't very good. And this is where I start to lose my momentum in the fight. This is where the momentum starts dying in the fight. I'm trying to get my Yari Ashigaru back into the fort. I made sure to deploy my general stand and fight on the gatehouse flag so that the AI doesn't capture it, so I can get my units back in. And this is where the water also really hurts me. If units are in the water, I can't charge them. My charge is muffled, so I have to try and pull them out of the water first. It adds more micromanagement to the whole fight. And it also means that my cavalry take longer to get where they're needed. It's turning into a mess. My general's getting involved in the fight. I'm deliberating on what to do with the cavalry now. It becomes really... This is the tricky part where they all get into the fort and there's not a lot of maneuvering for the cavalry inside the fort. So I'm struggling to think, how am I going to use these? And even with Shingen dead, even though Shingen has died, his units are just not going to rouse. They have so much experience. They have so much experience, and I think the fact that they're winning the fight also buffs their morale, so that's doubly so. It's not completely hopeless at this point, but it's close. It's close. It's now turning into a battle of attrition, which I cannot afford to win, even with stand and fight. I think I pulled back my general there from stand and fight just to get him out of the fight, and I'm gonna redeploy him somewhere else. But again, Yari Ashigaru with high experience, and then the bow samurai maybe climbing into the fort. It's just not pretty. If the thing is, it's so frustrating to know that if I had just one unit of Wako Raiders or Katana Samurai, I would be able to close the gap. I've had scenarios where I killed 90% of the enemy force. It was literally all I would need over here to swing this is one unit of Matchlock Ashigaru or one unit of proper sword infantry. You would be able to just barely swing this in my favor. I think it is winnable, but as I've demonstrated over here, so much needs to go right. So much needs to go right, and the reason I've had so many attempts is because the way morale works in this game is it's super inconsistent, and sometimes Yari Ashigaru, even though they're getting completely surrounded, just end up stabilizing their morale, and you have to pull your cavalry out for another charge, and as you're pulling them out, they take more losses, and that's also lost time. It's also more time that you need to spend taking charges, so the more time you spend bogged down in a fight with cavalry, the more time your enemy has to make progress elsewhere. It's just really, really annoying to deal with. Like this would be very winnable if this was just a normal field battle. Like this would be so incredibly simple to approach. And I'm trying to work something out over here. I'm taking advantage of the fact that the Matchlock Ashigaru don't have line of sight because of the ridge. So I managed to get a charge off with my cavalry, but then the Yari Ashigaru are intervening. And now you're gonna see what I told you about the whole morale thing. Shingen is dead. These units don't have any buff from their general being alive. And yet, look at this. They are not even wavering. They are not even wavering. We have Matchlock Ashigaru taking multiple charges, flanking charges from cavalry, getting battered, and yet they are not even wavering. I don't even know, like, barring some extremely perfect micromanagement and also a lot of luck in how the AI decides to send it to disperse its units, it's just I don't see, like, it would require an extreme fluke to get this to work. So my cavalry are basically blocked off from the fort. I have to go all the way around. These units are blocking me. They're gonna get in my way. And when I do get to the fort, I'm gonna have bow samurai. They're gonna have my cavalry in their sights. And look at how battered a lot of these units are. These are just the Yari Ashigaru, and they're so heavily battered. There's imported Matchlock Ashigaru in a melee. They're not even... They're heavily battered. I can tell from the banners, the way the banners are torn up. It's a good visual indicator. And no, it's just not working. Just one unit. This goes to show, you know, like multiple problems with the game. Like it also captures neatly the problems with this game, this battle, and how experience is just kind of screwed in the way it makes units like Yari Ashigaru unbreakable. And that goes both ways, both the player's way and the AI's way. And there's also the fact that I really don't like how capturing the flag is just wins you the battle. I think it should be more of a morale debuff, and you can still fight on even if the flag is captured. And then there's also the fact that units get bugged out. This didn't really happen in this attempt, but it happened in other attempts where my cavalry outside the fort would just stop responding to orders because they're just bugging out. I don't know what's going on, and they get charged by Yari Samurai, and it just absolutely destroys their numbers. And at that point, because this battle is so tight, like if one of those mistakes happens, I have to repeat the whole thing. Like I can't afford those mistakes to using lunets to pathfinding. But I think I did admirably in this attempt over here. And I think the corpses, the distribution of the corpses tells you a lot about it. It tells you a lot about about how much the AI suffered over here. Costly enemy victory, and the game seems to agree on that. And in terms of kill counts, this isn't my best one, but this is the one where I routed the most units. I got 4,700 kills in one, but I've routed more units in this one. You can see Bo Samurai getting 404 kills. Like that's 2,000. They have 1,800 soldiers. That's easily something that Matchlock Ashigaru can deal with. Matchlock Ashigaru, I think Matchlock Ashigaru would have been enough to actually cause the units to start wavering. Just, you saw multiple points where units almost wavered over there. Their morale was going in the red, but they didn't waver. And that's just something that Matchlock Ashigaru could have done. Well, anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. And, you know, if somebody could help with the save file that's there in Discord, then you can also hop in and share your own save files to try to get through to them. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey there, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're new to the channel, I do Let's Plays for strategy games like Total War, city builders like City Skylines and Frostpunk, open world games like Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and first-person shooters like Battlefield 1 and Metro. You can hop onto Discord and join in on all the fun. And if you want to support the channel further, you can subscribe to my Patreon and gain access to exclusive videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!